Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Chiro HD, Evo Creative Media, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 611 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. David Kolowski. And if you want to hear a story about how to release the golden handcuffs and move from brick and mortar to click and order, stay tuned. Welcome back. It's another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. It's number 611. I have David Kolowski coming on today. We're in the same state.
We are.
Colorado.
Yeah.
I'm about 5 hours away from David today. He is in Loveland and I am in Grand Junction. So if you guys didn't know, we're on the map. Today, we're going to go through a great interview with David. We're going to talk to him about his career a bit and how he has shifted into family first focus at the moment and transitioning from brick and mortar to a click and order style practice. And I think there's going to be a lot of takeaways for people to see where the evolution of chiropractic practice has gone in the past 14 years or where we're going in the future. We're going to talk about him as an author. I'm really excited to maybe touch on some topics like social media and how he's been able to create an influence with his engagement on that platform of Facebook, because it's quite cool to see how him and his wife have transitioned to where they are today. And before we get into this episode, I want to go through our big why. Why do we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle? Well, first things first is freedom of speech. We've never censored anyone. We know what it's like to be traffic throttled, shadow banned, and censored. We'd never do that to you. So we've never done that, and we'll never do that. So that's really important. We also believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. I always say this, that chiropractic is the last piece on the chessboard between medical tyranny and checkmate for freedom of health for you and your family. So go find yourself a chiropractor, get under care, get the exam, consultation, health history, get some x-rays done, and find out what's going on with your nervous system. And find somebody that's going to take care of you and your family from first breath to last breath. We'll get a bit more philosophical. We do protect the sacred trust with this show. It's BJ Palmer's last words. If you want to know more about that, check out the show notes. We support and protect with this show, Chiro Hustle, the subluxation-centered chiropractor. I know we shouldn't have to do that, but they're taking this out of the colleges and telling people that that's a historical context, and we just keep that in our vernacular. So if you guys are a chiropractic student, please share this episode. If you guys know any chiropractic students that need this message on their campuses, please share this to them too. Share the show. And then last, we believe in universal intelligence and innate intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual. I know that's a lot to pack into an intro, but if we don't say that, we stand for nothing. So we stand for a lot there. And Dr. David, welcome.
Yes, well said. Thank you, James.
Yeah, you have to pack that in. Actually, I've made huge presentations, 45-minute presentations just on those topics.
Awesome.
Because I think that we have to drive that home. And then I give like a 2-minute, time stamped intro with that in there, but it definitely needs a lot of unpacking.
Oh yeah.
And I always tell people, if they don't even listen to the whole show, at least we told people what they needed to know about chiropractic front and center.
Right.
So 14 years in practice. Tell us about, days of growing up in Nebraska, playing football, all the way to where you are today.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm originally from Omaha, Nebraska. and had a, I guess, fairly typical suburban lifestyle. Going up through high school, had a major growth spurt, put on 5 inches and 100 pounds, and was in position to, get checked out by a few schools for football. Ended up going to the University of Nebraska Lincoln, the Cornhusker football team, as a walk-on, and so turned down a couple of scholarships to smaller schools. I just wanted to stay, local with the big guys, and walked on there, kept growing, kept putting on more weight, and just trying to find my place and make a difference there. It was an amazing time. Had some pretty great teams I played with. Big 12 championship, played for a national championship, played with the Heisman Trophy winner. Those kind of things were awesome. But that was just a phase of life that I had to go through. And then when that was done, one of the biggest things that a lot of people know me for is how I shed all that weight and became somebody new. So I lost 100 pounds, went from 310 at my playing weight down to 210, and kept that off with very little effort, mostly because of what the other thing we do with our nutritional work that my wife does, Dr. Lauren Kolowski, which you'll have on here again here in a bit. That's kind of our big claim to fame of just walking the talk, showing people what's possible when you live the chiropractic lifestyle.
Yeah. So 14 years into this, I know that you wanted to touch on shifting more into family,
right,
and to turning yourselves into more of a virtual practice model.
Yeah, so we've been in practice since 2010 here in Colorado, and really over the last several years, mostly through the pandemic era here, it's been a definite shift in even just in staffing the office, in finding new patients, in just our ability to get the word out. There's been a lot of big changes, obviously, and people who have been in practice, they know exactly what we're talking about. So we saw the writing on the wall that we need to be open to change, and there's no substitute for a physical adjustment. We know that, but we know there's many ways to educate people on lifestyle choices, on helping to address those 3 T's before they become an issue. We're not just going to let somebody keep going to eat fast food and drink poison all day and say that all you have to do is get adjusted. That's not what we are going to do. And so we want to help people see what kind of changes they can make to their health just by adopting these kind of lifestyle ideas. And so we're shifting into more of a what'd you say? The brick and mortar to the click and order system.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And so we're trying to put more online content out there. And my wife is still seeing patients virtually. Her practice is still alive and well. But I had to step away. And we did that for a lot of different reasons, but the biggest reason by far was to be there for family. A few months ago when we made this decision, we had 4 aging parents. A couple of them having some significant health issues, and we saw our ability to be there as the best thing we can do, the best way we can serve our family. And so for me, stepping away from practice and being there allowed me to play a very active role in a recent event, the passing of my father-in-law that just happened 2 days ago. And so it was just a blessing to be there by his side, and to be able to serve my mother-in-law and my wife, obviously, and just it made a huge difference. And we have the awareness that everything is just a season in life, right? I had the season playing football. I had the season in chiropractic school. I had the season in practice, and now I'm moving on to the next season of life, where we're redefining ourselves again in more of a digital online world. trying to help people in different ways and, still making a difference, but also being there for our kids and our family. That was the main driver for this. And we just feel blessed, first and foremost, that chiropractic was the vehicle that allowed us to be in this position in the first place. It wouldn't have been possible if we weren't as successful as we were in practice.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about your father-in-law, and it's really impactful to know that you were able to switch gears to be there more family-centered.
Thank you. Yeah.
And, as I listen to the things that you're saying, I am curious about the marketing aspect of that and how you guys are getting new patients from switching from the office style practice to a virtual style practice. What are you trying? What's working? What did you try? What didn't work? And, what are some takeaways that other people might be able to get from this that are curious about doing that?
Right. So I just got to say with the chuckle that we are by no means any kind of marketing expert. Marketing has always been our bane this entire 14 years of practice. We always joke there's a million ways to spend tons of money on marketing and all kinds of products and seminars and whatever else. But if the return on investment isn't there, it's sadly that's something you just gotta learn on the way. But for the most part, we've really depended on word of mouth referrals first and foremost. And again, that's a huge blessing that we were just able to serve people in a way that really got results and that earned their trust, and they sent their friends and family to us. Beyond that, we've just been trying to put out great content. We've had several different marketing teams over the years for doing help with Facebook posts and Instagram posts and those kinds of things, and they've really helped to keep us branded and keep our message concise, and that's been a big help. But I can't say there's really one thing.
Well, one of the things that I always come back to with people that are virtual, because I don't have a practice either. I don't have like a brick and mortar like location where I go and do work. And I think a lot of it's just one of the things I wanted to touch on today is like your ability for reach and
Right.
the engagement that you do. Like there's
Yeah.
probably so many people that come from your social media footprint, just from your engagement and your content, like strategic mapping plan that you guys do. Like,
Yeah.
I think that that's a huge takeaway for people. And sometimes we do have to pay to get to the top. Like,
Right.
the guys that climb Everest, guess what? They paid 3 or 4 to 5 Sherpas to help them get to the top of that big scary mountain.
Yep.
And that's a lot of times when it comes to like building a business or a practice. Sometimes you have to pay the Sherpas to get you to understand what it takes to like summit something and get to the top of something.
Exactly.
And it's not always easy. And sometimes it might be your last like $1,000 or, your last, chance to like keep the doors open. But, if you don't invest in things and you don't bring on experts to give you the guidance, then you're always going to be 5 steps behind the game.
Exactly. Yeah. You got to put in the work. You got to do some investment to get some return, right?
Yeah. So your engagement posting, I'm really curious about this. Do you actually get new patients from having that social media presence and the engagement that you start?
We do. And it's kind of funny too, seeing how they trickle in. People have been coming out of the woodwork here recently saying, "Oh, I've been following you guys for years. Love your content, love your posts. I just finally, I'm finally pulling the trigger. I need some help and reaching out." So, don't expect overnight results. Sometimes it's just about continuing to, just educate, getting in front of their eyes. And, what do they say now? It's like 8 to 20 times you need to show yourself before people are going to take action. So, we just keep on asking questions, keep on giving info, keep on providing value. They're there. I mean, people are out there who are looking for what you offer, and it's just a matter of them seeing you enough to trust you, and they'll be there.
The thing I love about what you have accomplished is you stand in your truth.
Oh yeah.
And you're either with you or you're unfriending and blocking.
Again, I think the last few years have been a blessing in that sense because, I don't know if you've seen this as well, but it feels like, Facebook and social media, they've put us all into these echo chambers where, we're not going to be seen to the mass public, but they're just going to keep all these ruffians together, we've had thousands of people start following us just out of the blue during the pandemic. And it's, again, because we're asking questions, we're challenging the narrative out there, right? Like we're just trying to poke holes in all those lies. And I always tried to be very careful about how I framed everything too, and not put myself in a position where they're going to strike me down and ban me or suspend me. But again, just asking questions, getting people to engage, and I think it worked pretty well. I think we're going to look back on these last few years and realize this was a pretty fun time.
Well, to me, I'm not really a fanboy of many groups or people, but when I see what you guys post, I'll share it.
Yeah, awesome.
And I think that says a lot because I don't share a lot of people's stuff. Yeah. And I'm not one. I create all my own stuff. Like I was talking to my new team member yesterday, and he was like, "So you don't schedule any of your posts?" I was like, "No, everything's organic, and I post it on the fly. Nothing is like stored. Nothing is like except for our show.
Right?
Like we put that on a content drip. We come out twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays. Yeah. But when it comes to like everything else with the engagement." Like it's all like, what's the theme today? Well, I want people to get more God in their life. I'm going to focus on that for several months. Yeah. I want people to get more love in their life. So I'm going to focus on that for several months. I very, very seldom ever lead with chiropractic, even though that, we're one of the greatest chiropractic advocate groups out there with Chiro Hustle. Like I don't even have to lead with that anymore. So yeah. I think it's really cool that what you guys do, you don't have to lead with chiropractic all the time either. You guys can lead with engagement of you guys have been duped. It's in your diet. Yeah. You guys have been duped. It's in the water. You guys have been duped. It's in your blood. And now it's like a way for you to like at least give people some clarity on making better decisions for themselves and finding people that can give them that truth because I've scheduled thousands of new patients for chiropractors. Yep. And one of the things I'll tell people all the time is the reason people mostly don't do stuff for themselves is they don't know where to go or who to trust. And when you show up every day, intrinsically, people start to trust you. And, and when you stick with them for year after year after year after year, eventually, like you said, over time, you're going to become super connected to them and they're eventually going to convert into doing business with you. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah. Yep. And I think you'd agree, like universal truths intersect eventually, right? They're all interconnected. And so if you're talking about the truth of our food supply, our environment, our toxin load, our the stresses that we're under, we can always take those truths and tie them back to chiropractic by talking about the intelligence of our body, the innate powers that we have, how powerful and important nature is, the universal intelligence. Like there's so much there that we can circle back to. So we don't need to push chiropractic aside by any means. I've never done that. It's always there. It's always something we can tie back in.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Chiro HD, Evo Creative Media, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now let's hustle. But it's also adaptability. Yeah. And 50 years ago, They weren't testing people for heavy metals. They weren't testing people for parasites. They weren't testing people for viruses in their blood. They weren't testing people for all these things that are more present now than ever. You know, these really mold, you know, the things that are like inside of people's like biome, their microbiome inside their bodies, that if you go to a regular doctor, they're not testing for that stuff.
Nope. They'll look at you funny if you ask that.
Lyme disease.
Yeah.
You know, like people have all these like chronic, like inflammatory conditions that are caused, you know, whatever we call them, autoimmune conditions.
Yeah.
And most of the times it's pretty simple if you just look at the patient the right way and you start investigating what's going on inside of their blood work and what's in their spit, what's in their poop.
Yeah.
And you start to see like what's going on inside their microbiome. You can save them so much like physical and emotional and chemical stress. But is that chiropractic? You know,
well, are they having a normal expression of health? You know, if not, we need to address what that underlying cause is. And regardless of where the chiropractic adjustment fits in, we know it supports the expression of innate intelligence, the expression of health in the body. And so, again, even though I'm not actively practicing as a chiropractor, there's no substitute for that. I still get adjusted every week, and it's a part of my lifestyle, you know, and I'm not going to stop that. I know how valuable it is.
So knowing, I do too. I get checked and adjusted at least weekly. As the chiropractic profession, the real straights would always say, just get checked. If you don't need to get adjusted, it's okay. It's
Right.
probably better. It's probably better if you just get checked.
Right.
And I'm all for that, but there's never been a time, guys, I'm just going to let you know that I got checked and I didn't get adjusted. Just letting you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's rare. It happened a couple times through my practice in 14 years, but yeah, few and far between.
Yeah. I mean, we're constantly on gravity.
Yeah.
You know, I just did an event out in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And one of the things I told a guy, he's like, well, I really believe in chiropractic. I go, well, chiropractic isn't a belief system. It's like gravity. It works whether you believe it or not.
Yep.
And he just like the light bulb went off for him. And I think that's just it, is we need to keep on telling that story of the chiropractic story for people to understand that it's not a belief system. And chiropractic isn't really even healthcare. Chiropractic stands alone as chiropractic and kind of got bunched in because the insurance inclusion into a healthcare model that most chiropractors don't even know how to live in.
Right.
It's like, hey, move into this place and try to assimilate inside of this program that's really not set up for you.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we never subscribed to that. We were out of all insurance. We were 100% cash. I did maybe 1 or 2 PI cases, car accidents per year, but that was minimal. So yeah, I think if you provide value, if you provide results, there's no shortage of people that out there that will want you and find you out.
So knowing that you've taken your position and you've shifted so heavily, I would say, from being in practice and, you know, actively practicing in office chiropractic, I call it releasing yourself from the golden handcuffs. And now, where do you see the future of the profession heading? Like, do you see more people integrating into virtual practices? Do you see this model getting more popular? How do you see it transitioning?
I mean, I hope it's going the right direction. I think over the last couple of years, this has been the biggest, most crucial like pivot point of our profession ever, where, you know, we are in position to really shine. You know, the medical system has exposed themselves as being frauds, and that they don't have an answer, that the answers they do have are dangerous, that it's just, there's so many mistakes that they made, and, you know, they're struggling. One of the chiropractors that trained us over the years, he liked to say from the stage that the pharmaceutical companies and, you know, big medicine, big pharma, they're so big, so powerful, that the only way they're going to collapse is by getting so big and having so much control and power and authority that they're going to overreach and basically just implode upon themselves, because it'll be too self-evident that they were wrong. And I think people are getting to that point where they're realizing like they need a better option. And so chiropractic needs to stand up. We need to position ourselves with those answers. And just again, keep it simple. Just tell people the truth. Tell people the chiropractic story. Your body is smart. Your body is able to figure this out if you give it the right tools, the right support, the right opportunity. So I think going forward, we may see a golden age of chiropractic, but at the same time, I'm also acutely aware of all the other forces and factors that are at play here with these global agendas, with DEI initiatives, ESG scores, sustainable development goals, all these things that can come at us from the top down, from insurance companies dictating what we can do and how we need to run our practice, and whether we're going to be coverable or not, whether we get our license from the states because we're not following these made up goals. So there again, it's a mixed bag. So I think there's a lot of potential here, but we need to stand firm and hold on to that original truth that chiropractic is a basic fundamental health improvement strategy.
You said a lot there, and I think I think that there's definitely some gold within that message you just provided. And I really believe that when people start looking at like how the medical arena is shifting, one of the slides I've used recently in some of my talks is David and Goliath, and they had asked, David, how did you hit Goliath and kill him? And he said, how could I miss him?
Right.
And I think that that's very, accurate for today is, the Hippocratic Oath still matters. And the physicians inside of the actual medical professions, the MDs and the nurses, the nurse practitioners, and the people actually providing hospital care and like general physician care, they're tired of the medical mafia.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, they're tired of being browbeat and like suppressed and told how they have to take care of their patients with the pharmaceutical solutions.
Right.
So you're actually seeing a trend right now where a lot of these people have like disbanded from those traditional models, and they want to do functional medicine work and support chiropractic office chiropractors specifically to shift out of where they feel suppressed and diminished with their skill sets, and they're tired of just giving pills, potions, and lotions.
Right.
So I see that shift happening too, where the medical profession is starting to disband, and they're starting to say, hey, how can I integrate with people that are actually about health? Right. And that we can still like stand up to our ethical standards of the Hippocratic Oath and do no harm. Because like you said, people have been misinformed and hurt and injured by a system that they were one time, hand and footed into to believe that this is the only way to be healthy.
Right. We've had a lot of patients who were in the medical field over the years, and many of them got out of practice altogether or became concierge physicians, outside of the outside of the insurance model, so that they had more freedom and autonomy and didn't have to follow those standard of care documents that hamstring them. They keep them from really being a true doctor and a true healer. So again, I think we're in the best position to do that. But we have to keep true to our core principle as well and be able to apply chiropractic in the proper way.
I believe that we're on the path, and there is like a huge opening right now.
Yeah.
And if we do the right things the right way, specifically with like the integration of artificial intelligence, chiropractic has the ability to really rewrite the message within its own greatness. And people, I think right now are looking for, what chiropractors have not wanted for the longest time, to be considered alternative. but people are looking for alternatives to the medical mafia.
Yep.
And they are looking for alternatives to give their families like long-term health. And we know that our food supplies are more polluted than ever. Same goes for our water supplies. Same goes for the air that we breathe. So we have to find people that have credibility and want us to have a better adaptability and quality of life for not only us, but the next generation. And I think that that's really why I asked that question of where we see this profession going, because it's not up to you now. It's up to the graduates that are coming out of school like tomorrow.
Yeah.
And where are they going to take the profession?
Yeah. And the schools themselves need to stand strong. You know, they have to realize that they're being corrupted from the inside as well. And, you know, that's a whole other story, right?
Yeah. I mean, we touched on a little bit before we went live today, and I said, it's just all the optics. It's like, where are you taking money from? What are you teaching the students? Can they adjust, or do we have to take a student that's finished 7 years of schooling and they still don't know how to move bones? They don't know how to remove a subluxation. They don't have how to correct somebody's spine with their hands, and they're taught to refer out, and they're taught that it's a liability to adjust. And, you know, I just think that back in the day, chiropractors like stood on that hill and pisiforms blazing, and they would adjust anything. They would move any bone, you know. And I think that honestly, I talk to people in the public all the time, and I say, hey, go, if you guys think that chiropractors hurt people, that's fine. You're validated with that thought, but go check out malpractice insurance. Go see how much a chiropractor pays, and go look at all the healthcare professionals and see who pays the most. And I go, then you can decide if that what you just said stands up. And I go, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but that's the truth. If you want to find out anything about like what you just shared with me, just go and check out where the insurance providers are actually holding who's liable for injuring people, and why one professional pays more and why chiropractors pay almost the least amount. I go, and that will give you a lot of clarity on what you just said and if that's the truth. So exactly. I think a lot goes back onto is not making people feel like they're wrong, but giving them a chance to see the clarity in what their belief system is. And I think the house of cards is tumbling, and that most people are saying, gosh, what's the alternative to the model that just hurt my family and caused myocarditis or whatever the hell it is?
Yeah.
Or died suddenly, you know, or whatever these movies are that come out.
Exactly. I think you just have to gently wake them up. You know, you can't just slap them across the face and say you're wrong. You have to say, okay, if this is true, then why is it this way as well?
Yeah, for sure. So let's touch on you being an author and writing some books.
All right.
I know that I did a review for you for one of the books that you came out the night before Wellness.
Yeah.
Tell us about, I'm really interested in the Health Comes From Inside that's coming out soon.
Yeah. So this has been a work in progress, gosh, for pretty much the entire career. I've always had this idea, you know, ever since I went to one of my first coaching seminars, and, you know, heard, you know, at the time I was super early in practice, super slow, just didn't know where to turn. And so I went to this guy, and, you know, he said that you have to tell the story. And so I was like, oh, well, where's the story? I need to read this and just learn it, and then I can retell it. And, you know, it took me a while to figure all this out, but I eventually learned, like, it's not an actual story. The chiropractic story is just connecting with people and letting them know this idea of innate intelligence and the power of our bodies. And, you know, and kind of like you said at the very start, there's so many ways we can boil this down into these beautiful bumper sticker slogans, like, you know, the power that made the body heals the body. And they're perfectly true, but there's so much to unpack there. You know, you could write an entire book just on that one premise. And so basically, I had all these ideas swimming through my head. I remembered what it was like getting into not only becoming a chiropractic patient myself, but also going into chiropractic school and learning all this for the first time after coming from a pretty, medical model growing up. All these revelations that I had, I needed to capture them. I needed to like reproduce this path that I went through. Because I know many other people are going to go through the same thing when they can fully, appreciate what we're dealing with. And so the book Health Comes From Inside is basically, taking these ideas and bringing them to life, trying to, first just get people to agree that there's a need, there's a need for change in our healthcare system, and then to take people through this journey where we can break down like what is life, what is health, how does our body express health in these changes, and how do we heal, how do we create all these changes, where does chiropractic fit in, where does proper diet and lifestyle fit in, where does all the medical interventions fit in. There's a time and place for those, but they shouldn't be first and foremost. And so, I try to just bring people along and help them to see, as much as I can show them, how to put this all together and really tell that chiropractic story without turning it into like a 500-page novel.
Well, I'm excited to get my hands on the book when it comes out. Health Comes From Inside. Dr. David, I appreciate you being on for episode 611 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to touch on today?
No, just connect with us on social media. You can find myself and my beautiful wife, Dr. Lauren Kolowski, pretty easily. Facebook's the best place, I think, for both of us, but she does a lot more on Instagram. You can go to our website, insidehealth.com, and find more about us there too. And yeah, we'd love to connect with anybody and share any kind of insights we can about practice, life. If you got questions, we're here for you.
Well, I really appreciate your willingness to help more people. And it's really cool to see your guys's transition. I think we've been in network with each other for over a decade now.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see how our paths still keep going forward together. And I appreciate you being our guest on 611. And if you guys want to learn more about David or Lauren, check them out on Facebook, check her out on Instagram, and go to insidehealth.com. Dr. David, I want you to have a great rest of your day out here in beautiful Colorado. And as I always close out, I tell people, you guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye for now.
Thank you.
For sure.
Cool.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.